Let's get it back to the stadium as David Cohn joins us now. And David, you heard us talk about the decision to pull Cole. You heard from Boone and Cole as well. Wanted to get your thoughts on the timing of that.
Well, I think you guys have nailed it really down as far as we can go on it. I mean, Aaron Boone had some indecision. Garrett Cole wanted to be in the game. I think there was a little uncertainty on whether to make the move or not, or what Trevino was warming up for, sort of to clean up if Cole couldn't get out of that jam. Well, Cole was never allowed to pitch into that jam. So, yes, I agree that Cole needed to stay in that game without a doubt. And even in the middle of that inning, after he was out and Trevino gave up the hit, I thought Stanton threw to the wrong base. If you want to start picking everything apart there, the fifth run shouldn't have scored either. Stanton got the base hit, threw it to third base, should have thrown to second base, would have kept the runner at first, kept the double play in order. That along with obviously Bader and Aaron Judge's misplay in right field. There's 3 runs right there.
David, let's talk about the Yankees offensively, obviously struggling again in this ball game. To me, it felt different. I felt like Verlander had his really good stuff, his really good off-speed stuff. Valdez had the amazing curveball. Tonight with Javier, it was fastballs and fastball counts. I know he has a good one, but the Yankees couldn't do anything with it.
No, they couldn't. The thing is, it seems like his fastball got in their heads because they know he has excellent riding action on his fastball, well above average in terms of the vertical movement on his four-seam fastball. It's not a high-velocity pitch, but it's a high-spin pitch, and the Yankees came out popping it up. You know, we hit a lot of really high pop-ups early in the game, and so that kind of got in their head. So then when he did throw a slider and got a lot of the plate with the slider, they were completely off guard and weren't ready to attack. Breaking balls that were hanging, that were hittable, that were in the middle of the plate, and certainly they were breaking sharp, and he has good spin on all of his pitches, but it looked like to me that his high fastball, that riding fastball, got into their heads. They started to look for it. They popped it up early, and that set up the slider for the rest of the night for Javier.
David, Aaron Judge is likely to win the American League MVP. He already has the American League home run record with 62, but in the postseason, 5 for 32 with 14 strikeouts. What have you observed while watching Judge's at-bats?
Yeah, it's hard to watch. I mean, a guy who just had a historic season during the regular season has really gotten out of his way, and certainly out of his element in terms of his approach at the plate. And there hasn't been the walks there. There hasn't been the grinding out at bats, the continual 3-2 counts that he's so famous for, and the ability to fight off pitches and lay off of those pitches out of the zone. That just hasn't been there. And I give Houston credit too. I mean, even Cleveland for that matter, is they really haven't pitched him like they're afraid of him at all. They've gone right after him. That's been the decision from both teams, both organizations that have good pitching, that they weren't going to pitch around Judge, and maybe he got caught up in wondering if he was going to have to spit on pitches, if he was going to have to lay off a lot of slow pitches out of the zone or off-speed pitches. And there's been a lot of fastballs that he's been late on early in the count and even taking. You know, I see indecision from hitters when I'm on the mound. I see it a lot from the Yankee hitters, in that they take a lot of good pitches early in the count. I think tonight was no different. Some fastballs right there they take, trying to grind out at bats, and the next thing you know, you get down 2 strikes, and the pitcher's in the driver's seat at that point. So a lot of indecision from the Yankee hitters is what I saw.
David, let's go back to Cole. You are our eyes on the ground there. You're at the stadium. From the television, it seemed to me like he had electric stuff. He had good stuff. So you're there. Did his stuff look like it diminished at all in the 6th inning?
No, not really at all. It just looked like to me he had a concerted effort to throw a lot of breaking balls to this Houston team that's a good fastball hitting team and a very aggressive team. So I thought it was an excellent approach by him to as you saw, and you guys showed the breakdown of the pitches, and Jack Curry went over it, but the enormous use of his slider, probably a season high in terms of slider and knuckle curve usage, well over his four-seam fastball usage. But when he still needed the fastball, it was still there. He still had mid to upper 90s whenever he wanted it. So, yeah, I thought this was a game he should have had. His defense let him down, obviously, early. Those 2 runs shouldn't have scored. And, even though he gave up the home run to McCormick, it was a line drive double the other way. They hit the top of the wall and got out of here. So, yeah, okay, you give McCormick credit. He's got good pop the other way. That burned him. But, he was let down. Garrett Cole was let down by his defense. It's a play that shouldn't have been made, or should have been made, rather, and that cost him early in the game. But to answer your question, Michael, no, I saw a guy that really wanted it, a guy who deserves to be in that game. He pitched exceptionally well in the first 2 starts in this postseason. Because the Yankees didn't close out Game 4, or because the Yankees couldn't get the job done against Cleveland, that pushed them to use Nestor and pushed them to use Cole more. That kind of factored over into this series as well. That's why Cole had to pitch, in this game at Yankee Stadium rather than opening up in Houston.
Now, David, it's part of Yankee legend, you in '96, lying to Joe Torre that you could get a batter out, and he believed you, he looked into your eyes, and you got the batter out. Now, you were fortunate because that was only the first trip to the mound. Boone's trip to the mound in the 6th inning was the second trip. Is there anything you as a starter could do when you see him walking out of the dugout, shoot him a look, wave your hand, or would you not want to show up your manager?
No, I don't think it's about showing up your manager. I think it's about anticipating the flow a little better. And as soon as Boone gets to a certain point out of the dugout, I'm not sure if he can turn around, and reverse course. I mean, that's a matter of interpretation for the umpires. But, yeah, you'd have to really be ahead of the game, really anticipate the flow in that situation and look into the dugout and get to him quickly and make a gesture to him to let him know, no, I'm okay here. But it seemed like Aaron Boone had other thoughts in his mind at that point, and he seemed a little uncertain, too, as he walked out there and asking Cole, are you all right, as we saw trying to read lips. And then secondly, his explanation afterwards was sort of, Trevino was a guy thought we could get the ball on the ground. Trevino ended up throwing him nothing but sliders in that situation as opposed to his hard sinker, which is a better chance to get the ball on the ground. So there seemed to be uncertainty all the way around, not only from Aaron Boone, but also from Trevino on what pitches to throw and how to go about getting out of that jam. And there's nothing harder than bringing in a reliever with the bases loaded and nobody out. That is the highest degree of difficulty. That's something I would avoid at all costs. We can talk to Jeff Nelson about that when he gets back on air here. But that is a really tough chance to put a relief pitcher in that situation with the bases loaded and nobody out.
Well, Coney, good stuff for now. We're going to see a little bit later with Meredith when you give us some thoughts on Game 4 Sunday. We're going to take